We're finishing up our discussion about women being rabbis.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
And I mentioned last week, and I think it's a valid point, is that the rise of female clergy began at the decline of rabbaniot who were competent. If rabbis' wives were competent, the rise of... There already was female clergy. And the moment the world felt that the female clergy was not as competent as the male clergy, the Rebbetzins don't know as much as the rabbis, they're not as approachable as the rabbi, for whatever reason they felt, that's what brought to the rise, in my opinion, of this whole discussion of can a woman be a rabbi. The question is, what is a rabbi's job? And do you have to be a rabbi to be a rabbi? I would argue that my wife does almost all the things that I do as a rabbi, aside from the synagogue parts of Torah reading and prayer, and more than me in other areas. And she is not called a rabbi because it's not the right title to choose to give somebody who's in that position, in my opinion. But before that, we mentioned at the end of last week, what is the motivation? What motivates this? Is it a motivation of genuinely helping the Jewish community, of being there for people? Or is it a motivation of I want to be just like a man? It's a feminist ideal of just like there are male rabbis, there are also female rabbis. And the truth is that when it comes to judging people's motives, it's very difficult. It's very hard to get down to the nitty-gritty. Say, why are you here? Why are you saying what you're saying? And very often in my situation, there are couples that come to me and they're fighting with each other. And it's not reading between the lines. You have to really read the story that they're not telling you.
Yes.
Both of them are out to get each other at this point in time when they're fighting with each other. And neither of you are telling you what's really going on. And it's your job, whoever's job is the third party. Sometimes you'll be the friend that's the third party. You really have to figure out what is going on here. What's really the problem? And then suddenly you discover, they're $300,000 in debt. And the debt, because he lost his job last year and they're still trying to catch up, and all of a sudden, you realize it has nothing to do with he doesn't take out the garbage on Monday mornings.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely not. Maybe that's the straw that broke the camel's back, but there's something much bigger here that's going on. Or, I'll tell you, when it comes to couples, very often you ask about a person's intimate life. You go, there are problems over there. Or in business partners. You realize it's not about the fact that he didn't come to that meeting last week, but it's because they really don't trust each other. And if you're two business partners that really don't trust each other, this is not going to work out for you. Reading people's motives or why they're coming to you. I once had a guy call me, and he was asking me strange questions. And then I just called his bluff. I said, "Are you trying to get me to say something?" And she was, "Yes, I'm trying. There's someone else on speakerphone. I wanted to hear you say X." Well, thank God, Baruch Hashem, I caught such a thing. But you have to figure out why is the person. What are they trying to get out of me? You know, when your kid calls you up and says, "Hey, Mom, how you doing?" How much money do you need? What happened? Which car accident did you do? What do you want? Right? That is to get down to a person's motives. What's motivating them? In our recent learning, we've discussed converts, people converting to Judaism, and figuring out what's motivating them. Are they motivating for an ulterior motive? And do we convert people just because they saw a nice girl at shul and they wanted to marry her? Or does it have to be something deeper than that? And the truth is that there's a rule in the Shulchan Aruch, and the rule says, Hakol lefi ra'ot enei hadayan. Everything is up to what the judge who's sitting on that court is able to perceive. If the judge feels, you know what, this person's telling me this, but really there's something good deep down inside of them, he's allowed to go forward and push ahead that conversion, even if the guy who's converting or the girl who's converting is not really aware of their deeper inner goodness, and he's allowed to say, I'm going out on a limb here, but I'll let you in. Or he can say, you know what, you're dressing the part, you're talking the part, you look the part, but something about you is off. He's also allowed to make that call.
Is it still that if somebody wants to become Jewish, you have to refuse them 3 times before you do it? Is that just a halacha, or is it a...
It's done today by many Jewish groups, and I'll tell you the truth is, I wish it was only done 3 times. It's done much more than that in a very terrible fashion. But it's not a halacha. I'm right now, my father and I are studying together for ordination and the laws of conversion. So we study together a few times a week. And we just finished the first section of halachot on conversion. There's no such law. It doesn't exist pushing people away. What exists is trying to discover what are you really here for.
Why is the reason that they want to do
But
it?
to say, go away, there's no such thing in Judaism. The person really wants to come close. Our job is not to push them away. In fact, the Talmud says the only reason the Jews are in exile is so that many non-Jews could join the Jewish people. And if Jews were to hear such a teaching, whoa, doesn't sound so Jewish. It is. We have got, we used to be in this exclusive country club called Israel. We all lived in the Middle East. We all had our Beit HaMikdash. We didn't have so much interaction with the rest of the world. Exile kind of forced us to be next door neighbors with other people, to find the good people that really want to jump on this bandwagon. We don't proselytize. We don't run after people. But if you count the thousands and thousands of honest, good, upright Jews that have joined our ranks since the day we were exiled, it might have been worth being here all these years in all of our different exiles. Really? Yeah. And all of our different exiles to bring these people closer. I want to read you 3 stories from the Talmud. Some of them you've heard before. Have you heard of Hillel HaZaken?
Yes.
Who was Hillel? What was he?
בית הלל ובית שמאי, this הלל?
This Hillel. What was special about him? Anybody know?
הוא היה יותר מתון. He was more lenient.
Rabbi Hillel was more lenient. He was not just lenient, but balanced. You could use the better word. He wasn't extreme, or you would argue he was very extreme in the direction of kindness, of mercy. His colleague at that time, the other leading rabbi of the Jewish people, was Shammai. Shammai was a brilliant Torah scholar, but Shammai was rigid. Shammai was tough. People would come to Shammai, and he would very quickly say, I don't want you here. Get out of here. He was a tough kind of person. Not because he was mean. People make Shammai look out like the bad guy. Shammai was simply very passionate about what he believed. And he viewed leniency as the same thing as cutting corners. And why would I cut corners about something I'm passionate about? Hillel said, I don't view leniency as cutting corners. I view leniency as making it more approachable for other people. And this is a valid argument. It still exists today. There are people who would more identify with the camp of Shammai, and those who would more identify with the camp of Hillel. But the halakha is that when Hillel and Shammai argue, with the exception of a few places, we always follow Hillel. Because Hillel's approach is the approach for the masses. And it's the one that works for most people. So let's read a story. Shanu Rabbeinu. There's a few stories that are famous. The famous guy who used to bother Hillel on Friday afternoon. He would come and scream at him through his window. Do you know the story?
No.
Okay, so there was 2 friends that made a deal with each other. Said, if you can get Hillel mad, Rabbi Hillel, I'll give you 400 gold coins. So the guy said, it's so easy to get Hillel mad. I said, no, it's not so easy to get him mad. I said, okay, so I'll take the bet. I did the dare, I'll lose. If I can't get him 400, I'll get him. So he goes on Friday, Hillel's in the bath. It's right before Shabbat. And he says, Hillel, just calling out his head. So Hillel hears someone out. He sticks his head out the window. He says, are you Hillel? He said, yeah. He says, can I ask you a question? He said, sure, just give me a minute. And he dries himself off. He gets dressed. He comes downstairs. He asks him a question. And the man asks him a few. Well, the first one is, why are certain people from certain countries, why are their eyes, they're slanted, or why they're not open as wide? So he says, well, he gives them an answer. Well, where they live, there's a lot of sand, and then it blows, and Hashem, they evolved their bodies to protect their eyes. Okay. He goes back to his bath, and the guy waits 10 minutes, and says, Hillel hears him again. He just sat out the window, says, yeah, are you Hillel? He says, I just talked to you 5 minutes ago. Yes, I'm Hillel. He says, can I ask you a question? He says, sure. So he dries himself off, he comes down. He says, why do the people from this country have such flat feet? And so Hillel says, the truth is that where they live, there are many swamps, and their feet have adapted to make sure they don't sink into the swamps. They have flat feet. Okay, so he goes up, and he comes back, and he asks him another similar question. Hillel says, what's going on? So they sit down and he says, I made a bet with my friend. And my friend said that if I can get you mad, I'll win 400 coins. And Hillel smiled and he said, it was worth it for you to lose 400 coins than for me to ever get mad at another person. So he never did it. It was worth it. I'm happy that you lost. The guy was very upset. And the story ends, the man tells him, Lo yarbu kamotcha b'Yisrael. There should not be more people like you, because I lost so much money because of you. Don't make bets about Hillel. So Hillel once is sitting in the Beit HaMikdash, Shanu Rabbeinu, our rabbis learn, Maseh ben Ochri echad, there's one non-Jew. Sheba lifnei Shamayim, he comes in front of Shamayim. Amar lo kama Torot yesh lachem? How many Torahs do you have? And how many Torahs were you given on Mount Sinai? Amar lo shtayim, Torah shebichtav, v'Torah sheba'al peh. We got two, a written Torah and an oral Torah. Amar lo shebichtav ani ma'amincha, v'sheba'al peh ani ma'amincha. I believe in the written Torah, but I don't believe in this oral Torah business. Gayereni al manat shtenamdeni Torah shebichtav. Convert me on condition that I only have to study the written Torah.
Go and be a Carol.
Now, by the way, the rule in general in Jewish circles is, if a Jewish person comes to somebody and says, Rabbi, I'll do everything except for study Talmud. Okay, listen, we're part of the family. Come however you want to come. But when someone comes from the outside and they say, convert me, but I don't want to do what you guys do, it's like, I don't have to convert you. I have to accept you. You're part of the family. I have to let you in. I don't have to let you in just because. So what does Hillel do? What does Shammai do? Garbo ben Zifa. He threw him out the door. He says, get out of here. Balifnei Hillel. He comes to Hillel and asks the same question. How many Torahs? 2. I only want to study 1. Giro. Hillel converts him to Judaism. Amar lo, and Hillel starts to teach him. This is Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dal. These are the letters of the alphabet. The next day he came back, Hafachlo. He turned around. Al Aleph, Amar lo shu Bet. He told him that the first letter was really the second letter. Ve'al Bet shu Aleph, and the Bet is really an Aleph. He confused him. He basically changed everything upside down. Amar lo, v'harei t'mol amarta v'kach. But then yesterday you told me this is Aleph, this is Bet, this is Gimel. Now you're telling me the opposite. Amar lo alai et hasomech. He says, you're only asking this question because you trusted me that yesterday what I told you was right. And now I'm telling you something else. So just like you relied on me yesterday, you should now believe me today. Ach b'Torah sheba'al peh alai lismoch. Also trust me that the oral law is also true. And he ended up believing in the oral law and staying a good Jew. Meaning he was saying, you don't understand why the Torah says don't cook a goat in its mother milk. And the rabbis come out and say you can't have meat and milk on the same plate. They say, where does that say in the Torah? He said, just like you trusted me that word gedi in the Torah means a goat, and the word chalev means milk, because I'm the one who got the Torah on Mount Sinai, and I told you that's what it means, so too you should trust me when I tell you that the meaning of this verse, meaning the oral law, is that you can't have meat and milk on the same plate, or eat them together, or cook them together. And he ended up converting to Judaism. So what do you find? Shammai, what did he do? Shammai was...
Kick him out.
He kicked him out. Would you have kicked him out also? No, be honest. I would have kicked him out. I'm probably not going to be Hillel, and sure, we'll let you take half and then not believe in the rest.
I would have kicked him out too.
Right. It's a chutzpah. He comes in as a chutzpah.
You tell me that you only want to learn what you want to learn to be who I am, and what I've had to learn, forget it. I'm not interested in you doing it.
And I think most people would, maybe you wouldn't throw him out the door, but you would tell him, listen, this isn't for you. You don't have to be Jewish. No one's making you be Jewish. Hillel, it's more puzzling what Hillel does. Hillel converts him, and then he begins to teach him Torah. And normally today, somebody converts, they have to go for years and years of classes and studying. This guy didn't even do anything. He comes in, but that's not the worst story yet. Shuv Maseh ben Ochri echad. There was a story about another non-Jew. Sheba lifnei Shammai. He came to convert in front of Shammai. Amar lo gayreni al menat shetelamdeni kol haTorah kula kshani omed al regel achat. Convert me on condition that you can teach me the entire Torah while I'm standing on one foot.
Oh yeah, I've heard this one.
I've never heard that.
It's like, what is that, circus here? You're coming to... You can imagine Shammai is not up for these kind of stories. Like, go to the local Orthodox synagogue. What are you coming to bother me for? Dachafo be'amata binyan shebiyado. He took the amata binyan. Imagine like a broom or a pole or a stick, and he pushes them out the door. Get out of here. Balifnei Hillel. He comes to Hillel. He converts him. Amar lo, very good. He says, okay, stand on one foot. The guy stands on one foot. He says, now listen to me. He says, ve'afta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your fellow as you love yourself. Ma shesanu alecha lo ta'aseh lechavrecha. Ma shesanu alecha lo ta'aseh. No, that's for Ima, okay? Ima t'zachek ifa. So what you hate being done to you, don't do to other people. Zohi kol haTorah kula. says this is the whole Torah. The rest is just a commentary on this commandment of don't do to others what you wouldn't want done to yourself. This is an incredible statement from Hillel. But is that really enough to convert somebody to Judaism? That's the whole Torah. If someone, what's Judaism in a nutshell? Love your fellow like you love yourself. And in fact, when you hear that, you almost think of Christianity. Turn the other cheek. In Judaism, you start to think of Passover, Seder, Yom Kippur services. You don't think about this, but that's what Hillel did.
It's a famous thing that Chabad does all the time. They speak about that all the time.
Okay, and it's smart. It's a beautiful part of the Torah. He says, you should know, love your fellow like yourself. Hashem is also your friend. And just like you don't want people doing things to you that you don't like, you shouldn't do things to God that He doesn't like either. And he says, now go out and study the rest of the Torah. And this guy that stopped his block, he said, if that's the whole Torah, I want to study the rest of it. From here you learn something Avril just mentioned, an interesting point. And that is that many people, they try to, when they teach Judaism, they talk about Shabbat, they talk about kosher, they talk about mezuzot, tefillin. The truth is that maybe I'm wrong, but to the average person on the street, it doesn't appeal. Not because they're not interested in Shabbat. They think their life has gone pretty good until now. So why should I now study about the intricacies of how you write a Torah scroll? Great. Somebody wants to write a Torah scroll to study such laws. Instead, if you talk to people about what Judaism says about having a healthy marriage, about what Judaism says about raising children, what Judaism says about getting along with other people, what Judaism says about tolerance, about respect, about love. You've interested people. Now they're interested. Also, of course, I'll do what's the rest of the Torah. Of course, I'll come to synagogue on Shabbat. But you're not going to attract me to Judaism by talking to me about how wonderful it is to sit through a Shabbat morning services. Rather, instead, tell me how wonderful this whole picture is, and I'll do the rest of it. And that's what Hillel was doing. So I'll get you interested in what is really true. The truth of Judaism is, if you're a good-for-nothing person, I don't care how many times you go to synagogue during the week, you're not really a good Jew. And therefore, he was starting with what was more appealing to the ear, with what the person really needed to hear. Shuv Maaseh B'Nochi Echad, the last story. There was once another non-Jewish guy. He heard the voice of the teacher teaching the little boys in school. He heard him reading the following verse. He heard him talk about all these beautiful articles of clothing that they make for the Kohen, for the high priest. And so the guy sticks his head through the window and says, "Hey, Rabbi, who wears all these fancy clothes? They look really nice. I want one." He says, this is only the high priest to wear such clothing. So he goes to Shammai. And he says to Shammai, "Ba lifnei Shammai, amar lo, gaireni al menat shetesimeni kohen gadol." He said, convert me on condition that you let me be the kohen gadol, the high priest in the temple.
L'Shammai.
To Shammai. One person out of the entire Jewish people becomes the high priest. And he has to be born to a family of Kohanim. You're not, the famous joke.
Exactly.
You can't become a Kohen. So what does he tell him? He throws him out the door again. He comes to Hillel. He says, sure. And he converts him to Judaism. Amar lo, kru ma'amidi melech ela mi sheyodea tachzei malchut. Says Hillel, okay, now that you're Jewish, I have to tell you can't be the king until you study about how to be a king. So too, you can't be the Kohen until you study the laws of being a Kohen. Go take a Chumash and start studying. The man went to start studying, and he comes across a verse. And the verse says that anyone who performs the services in the temple and they're not a Kohen will be put to death. Because you have to be from a Kohen's family in order to worship, to be leading the worship inside of the temple. Says, Hillel, what are you trying to kill me? I don't want to do such a thing. I don't want to die. And he stayed a righteous convert and gave up on his dreams of being a Kohen Gadol. What's the moral of the story? I'll tell you. Liyamim. A few years later, these three converts were all at the same place, a Jewish restaurant, at a synagogue somewhere. Amru, and they said to each other, Kabdanuto shel Shammai, the strictness of Shammai, biksha letardeni min haolam. The strictness of Shammai was almost going to take me away from the world to come. And vatanuto shel Hillel, the humility of Hillel, kiraftanu tachat kanfei Shechina, brought us close. Okay, all done. Brought us close to the wings of the Shechina. The Chachamim, And therefore our rabbis say, "L'olam li adam anvatan kehilel v'al yeh kabdan k'Shamayim." A person should always be humble like Hillel and not strict and rigid like Shammai. So what's the obvious question? The obvious question is not, oh, should we be like Shammai? The question is, how can we be like Hillel? Hillel, on what right, on what basis did he convert someone to Judaism? Teach me the whole Torah on 1 foot. Or make me the Kohen Gadol. He was lying to them. Or not just lying to them, he almost accepted a person with such a preliminary, it was very superficially that he accepted them. So how did he do such a thing? How did he have the right to convert the people to Judaism? If someone told you this story, there was once a guy who came into the shul on Governor Drive, near the Sprout Center. He knocked on the door, Shabbat morning. He went to Rabbi Yoni and he said, "Hey, teach me the whole Torah on 1 foot." And he stood on 1 foot, and Rabbi Yoni told him, "You should love your fellow like you love yourself. Let's go convert you to Judaism." And by Mincha, we already were counting him as part of the Minyan. You want attention, Buba? Yeah? No? Up? Okay. So,
He knows he's too cute. Oh, yeah. He knows it.
normally he wakes up right before the class. Today he woke up like at 9 o'clock. So he's probably so bored, he just wants his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you know?
I know.
They say, I don't know.
No.
I know.
Lama?
Mama.
Kacha? Kacha? Okay, you're pretending.
Mommy.
Mom.
Mommy's coming.
Who loves you?
It's interesting.
Ready.
Zaidi, right?
Bobby.
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 Who comes to get you in their auto? Saba. And
Tata.
Tata, right?
הוא קורא לה טאטה.
Tata. So push comes to shove. Hillel, how can you convert the Judah?
He have a כוונה אחרת. He tricked them. He bring them to the religion.
No, he didn't bring them, but they came to him.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, he actually make them Jew, and then slowly, by the right way, he teach them, and they want to learn like that one.
So what did he see in them?
He see them the potential.
Very good. He saw their potential. And that was something that Shammai either didn't want to see or wasn't able to see. He didn't have time for this. And I'll tell you the truth is, I don't have a complaint on Shammai, really. What I have is a big compliment for Hillel. Hillel was able to look into a person and not just see what they were presenting. He looked at a person and he saw, I see deeper than this. I see that the reason you want to come close to Hashem is because you really care about other people. And that's why when I told you the whole Torah is about loving your fellow like yourself, you were willing to convert. Like a person once told me, they said, not a Jewish saying. I don't remember who it was. They told me that any fool can count the seeds in an apple.
Yes.
But only God can count the apples inside of a seed. Now, not everybody can look into a seed and say, how many people are going to come out of it? How many apples? How many good things are going to come out of this person? Hillel was that kind of person. And I'll tell you that it's very difficult. It's very difficult in the world to come up with a situation where you really understand the motives of another person. And you know that they're doing something genuinely and not for an ulterior motive. And that brings me to an interesting halakha. Yes?
It's interesting because I know that in Chabad, and I know Rabbi Lida, when somebody wants to become Jewish, and Rabbi Lida is the one that really does the conversions for Chabad.
He doesn't convert though.
He just gets them up to a point and then they have to go to LA.
Okay.
I understand that. At Asaladon, they didn't even do that. They turned them away 3 times and then they said, go to Rabbi Lida. So, I think that there's something not right amongst them all. Because I think if somebody wants to become Jewish and they really mean it, I think you have to take heed to what they're saying.
But it's not just them. I mean, the whole Jewish community in general is very tough on accepting converts. And right now I'm in the process of helping somebody through conversion. And the only reason we're doing it together is because the 3 times before he tried to convert, nobody wanted him. And it's an absurd situation in which
Okay,
People want to come close. תודה, דני. To see the garbage truck.
He wants to see the truck.
People want to come close to Hashem, and we keep pushing and pushing and pushing them away. But conversion wasn't the reason I brought this up. The reason I brought this up was for the following halakha. It's now Adar, like Dikla pointed out.
Tuesday.
Tonight the
Tonight,
train.
I mean, yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night,
Tonight.
Tuesday night.
Okay. I think it's tonight and tomorrow night.
The second Hadar starts, the second month of Hadar. In
First.
Judaism we have many months, and every now and then we need the extra month because we all the days that we didn't count. Now we have to add the month to get it back into order. That's exactly what the book can do.
Here's the interesting
Somebody's good
halakha.
at putting it.
It comes now time for reading the Megillah.
Yes.
I'm already taking out my Megillah, and I'm preparing the Megillah readings.
Is that the Megillah that came back from Israel?
Yes.
Do you remember that, Yosef?
I remember that. It
I
came
remember
just in
it
time.
like yesterday.
So it was written for me by a friend of mine. And Baruch Hashem, a very expensive friend of mine, but a friend of mine. And one of the few people I trust to write such things. And the question is, who is allowed to read the Megillah? Meaning, when it comes up to who reads the Megillah at the synagogue, is it the same thing as the Torah reading? Is it the same thing like leading services?
There is a special person that's allowed or not allowed?
Well, let's ask you a question.
Halakha?
Can
Well,
a
I know
child
what
read
you're
Megillat Esther?
Okay, of course
Yeah.
not.
Why not?
But
It has to be bar mitzvah, let's put.
Okay, bar
It
mitzvah.
makes sense.
Yes.
But
But
I
it's,
don't
in
know.
our synagogue, it's always the same person.
Can a lady read the Megillah?
No, of course
No.
not.
They can, but they don't. We read the Megillah with the rabbi, but we can't.
בטח לא באורתודוקס.
Tell me. So most people, I think, agree with Dalia. Women don't read the Megillah.
Not in Orthodox.
Not in the
that's for sure.
Orthodox. Maybe in the Reform or the Conservative, but definitely not
yeah.
in Batuach.
Orthodox
No
women is not.
Orthodox.
So let's read here.
No by
Halakha.
modern Orthodox and no by Orthodox.
Look who is here, Elchanan.
There?
הנה אמא, אמא.
Oh, he's here, and he is needing his mother very much.
Look at that photo. Hi. What's going on?
Hakol chayavim b'kriyat hamegillah. Say Shulchan Aruch. Everyone is obligated
To read
to read the Megillah. Reading meaning they all have an obligation to hear the Megillah being read. Anashim, men, v'nashim, and women, v'gerim, and converts. Tell me why it's gerim.
That's interesting.
It's an interesting thing.
Sorry, said hi, Deborah.
It's okay. Why converts?
That's really interesting.
Why would you think that a convert does not have to hear the Megillah?
Because they were not part of the miracle.
Very good. Very good. Well, let's start from here. Why do men have to read the Megillah? Because they were there in the times of the miracle. Men were involved in the miracle. Why do women have to read the Megillah? Most
Because
things
they
that are
were there
holiday
too.
oriented,
The women were there.
says the Gemara, "She'af hen hayu b'oto hanes," because they were also involved in this miracle.
בגלל אסתר.
Some would argue that Esther was actually very actively involved, and therefore, unlike other mitzvot, the women have a special obligation
Yes.
in the laws of Purim,
Yes.
which is why in a home, a man and a woman both have to give mishloach manot.
Yes.
Okay, because it's not just everyone is involved in this mitzvah. And so that brings us to why would a convert not? You would say because he converted. His family wasn't there in the times of Purim. Purim is not a holiday that says in the Torah that you have to observe it. Rather, Purim is a holiday that we observe because our ancestors were in this miracle. But if our ancestors weren't, so I'll keep Sukkot and Pesach and Shavuot, but why do I have to get involved in Purim? It's not my miracle. Kind of like I once spoke to a Jew who told me that only Israeli Jews have to celebrate Israeli Independence Day with a Hallel and a special prayer service. He said, because I wasn't in Israel. My life wasn't saved on Israeli Independence Day. I'm American. Now, I think that complaint is absurd. But hey, that's why I'm me and he's him.
That's right.
And the truth is that Maran tells us that also Gerim, because this is not a miracle that just is connected to people who were there, but it's a national Jewish holiday. And also converts.
But Antiochus wasn't Jewish.
Of course not. But
So she married
Antiochus is
somebody
the
who
wrong
wasn't
holiday.
Jewish.
The Min Achashverosh.
Achashverosh.
Antiochus is from Hanukkah.
Oh, that's right.
It's okay.
I'm just getting slightly mixed up. But no, and he wasn't Jewish. So she married a non-Jew to say it's the Jews.
The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, in chapter
But was she really married?
Ben Soler Umore, asked how Esther, forget that she was married to somebody not Jewish. She was a married woman.
Yes. She was married to what's his name? Mordechai, that's right. But we don't know really if she was married.
Oh,
What's that?
wait a second. Mordechai was
Her uncle but it really was his wife.
he Esther bat Dodo. It says she is Esther. His bat Dodo here means it's his niece essentially. His niece.
But he was really married.
Some of the Kabbalists say that the word in the Megillah is written bat Dodo, Dalid Vav. It doesn't say two Vavs. It doesn't say Dodo. Really, it's red. It's red Dodo, but it's spelled Dado because her father passed away when she was conceived. And her mother passed away when she was born. That's what the Talmud tells us. And so she was essentially adopted by Mordechai, who was her uncle.
Yes, but he
Was adopted, and some of the Mekubalim say that he actually nursed her. Dado also means his breast, that he actually breastfed her.
How can they? And men?
Some say it was a miracle. There are such situations. And according to the understanding, it doesn't apply this. He at the very least adopted her and then married her. Vayhi omen et Hadassah.
That's what I always thought.
So he ended up marrying his niece. This is an interesting story.
Correct.
And they didn't divorce before she married Achashverosh, because you see that it says that she keeps going back to Mordechai, kasher hayta be'omna ito, just like when she used to be with him. And this is a very strange thing.
Wait, men allowed to marry more than one. A woman not allowed.
Not allowed.
Okay.
So here, no, it wouldn't work.
He's not Jewish, so it's not really marriage.
Okay, so we were arguing maybe he's not Jewish, so there's not a marriage. Okay, so marriage. Wait, marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage, you could say. So she didn't marry him, right? Because you can't really marry a Jew and a non-Jew. But she was sleeping around with another man while her husband, she was still married.
Yes.
At the very least, according to halakha, she might not be able to go back to her husband.
But she did. She kept on going back to Mordechai.
If you want to study this in depth,
yes,
and it's something we could maybe bring up again before Purim, but the Gemara mentions that she was ke'afra de'aram. When she was underneath him, she was like, it doesn't say afra, it says the word that the Talmud uses, that she was like a wooden pole. She had no emotions, she didn't want to be there. She hated him, she hated being there, and because of her, she was able to actually remove herself at all, to the point where Chazal says she was allowed to still be with her husband and be with him. It's an interesting situation how we work out this problem. But at the end of the day, Esther was a big part of this miracle. Mordechai was a big part of this miracle. And anybody who joins the Jewish people celebrates Purim as part of the Jewish people. And the rule is that if you're obligated in something like someone else, you're also able to do the mitzvah for them. I'll explain. If a man is obligated to say Birkat HaMazon from the Torah, and a child, he's not obligated to say the Birkat HaMazon, the grace after meals from the Torah. He's only obligated rabbinically until he becomes bar mitzvah. It's just a rabbinic, for education purposes, he should say Birkat HaMazon. So a 11-year-old boy cannot read the Birkat HaMazon for a man who doesn't know how to read it. But his wife can, because his wife is obligated in Birkat HaMazon on a Torah level also. And therefore, if his wife is obligated in the Birkat HaMazon and he doesn't know how to read, she can say, listen to what I'm saying, I'm going to read it for you. Yes. This was a situation. There were very many illiterate people in our history, and mitzvot were shared. In fact, many say the reason why the man is always doing kiddush and doing hamotzi, we lived in a world where the women were very much illiterate, or if they weren't illiterate, they really were not in a position to be doing anything at the head of a household. And so this became the man's mitzvah to do. The Megillah, though, men and women are obligated equally. So listen to what Chacham Ovadia says. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef writes the following halakha. Chacham Ovadia says, Yesh omrim, some say, she'af al pi she'hanashim chayavot b'mikra Megillah, that even though ladies are obligated in reading the Megillah or hearing the Megillah being read, enan motziot et hanashim midei chuvatan, they cannot read the Megillah for men. V'yesh cholkim, some argue, v'omrim, and they say, she'hanashim yicholot motziot hanashim midei chuvatan, that the woman can read the Megillah for the men. So there's two opinions. Two opinions. You should know in most Sephardic books, whenever you bring down two opinions, the halakha is like the second opinion. Maran, Rabbi Yosef Cairo set this rule. If you bring down two opinions, you always follow the second opinion. I'm not sure, but I think in my book I try to do the same thing. Almost always.
One second opinion.
You bring the first opinion out of respect, and then the second opinion because it's right. If you, and in general in life, this is a good approach. If you say, well, I feel this way, but other people say not to, you leave the person who asks you the question feeling like maybe I shouldn't do what you told me to do. Because you brought up the doubting opinion second. But if you bring up the opinion of, some people wouldn't let, but I do. It gives a certain vote of confidence for what, meaning I'm letting you know that there are people who don't agree with me, but it's still what you should do. It's the proper way to speak when it comes to etiquette of how to teach something.
But if you have two different schools of thought, how can you know that the second one is the right one?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to make a decision.
So it's influenced by your own personal opinion.
Everything is influenced. Every decision you make is influenced. Not just the personal opinion, it's the logic, if you believe it's logical or not. So Maran brings down two opinions. And you should know that Ashkenazim follow the first opinion, which is that ladies are obligated in the reading of the Megillah. They're not able to actually read the Megillah. The difference would be as follows. What would happen if a lady wasn't able to go to shul? But like my wife, she has a kosher Megillah at home. And for whatever reason, there was no one to come read the Megillah for her. If she was a literate woman, she would be able to make the blessings and read the Megillah for herself.
Absolutely.
An Ashkenazi woman would not be able to. At least not according to current Ashkenazi halakha. It could be that it will change one day. I'm just telling you the on the ground the halakha is that an Ashkenazi lady is supposed to hear the Megillah being read by another man. And that's why people run around to other houses reading the Megillah for them.
That's interesting because at Chabad, I know that the women read the Halakha, that read the Megillah as the men are reading it.
That's not what I'm talking about. Everyone reads the Megillah when the Megillah is being read. It's what happens if there's no man to read the Megillah for you.
Oh, okay.
So can you read the Megillah for yourself? According to Sfaradim, yes. According to Ashkenazim, no.
No, correct.
We will go according to the Sfaradim.
Okay, this is good. Yep.
I think so.
Now the question here is, what about in public?
Oh, careful with the egg.
What about in public? And so Rabbi Chacham Ovadia says the following: "V'af l'pi she'ikar kedei achona," and even though the main halakha is like the second opinion that they're allowed to, tov lechush svara rishona, you should try to fulfill all the opinions whenever it comes to halakha, meaning have a man read it. What's it going to hurt you? Ela imken b'shat adchak, unless there's a pressing situation. You're in a community, and the only one who knows how to read Hebrew is a woman. In that situation, says Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, she should read the Megillah. You don't skip the reading of the Megillah, or give some man who doesn't know how to read Hebrew to read the Megillah if you have a lady who is more competent.
And then she can read it for other people to hear, as opposed to just reading it for herself.
Yes, very good. I mean, he's saying the next step. Let's say you're in such a community. Imagine that you were in a community of people on some island somewhere. There's no rabbi, but there's one lady, she really knows how to read. So she would read the Megillah for everybody else.
It makes sense. Baruch Hashem.
Now, you say, Baruch Hashem, you say, when Chacham Ovadia wrote this in his book, all hell broke loose on him. Now, he never backed down from this opinion. And he said, listen, I'm right. According to halakha, I'm right. A woman is obligated. I'm not doing this out of any feminist ideal. He said, a woman is obligated to read the Megillah like a man. So why in the world would I tell you that in a situation where there was no man who could read the Megillah, that a woman shouldn't be able to? What logic is there in that statement? And so he went out on a limb, and this is his halakha, and this is the halakha that we follow, and it's happened to me many times before. Someone has called in and said, Rabbi, I don't have someone to read the Megillah. I, for whatever reason, can't go. I said, you could take my Megillah and read the Megillah. And nothing will happen to you. Now, I'll tell you what this has given birth to, and that's the whole point of today. What this has given birth to, it's a whole slew of women's Megillah readings. Or, in many circles today, I've seen, especially more modern Sephardic circles, the daughter has her bat mitzvah always on Purim, and the way she celebrates her bat mitzvah is by reading the Megillah at the synagogue. And the rationale given is, well, Rabbi Yosef said it was okay. Nobody's lying in this situation. Nobody's wrong. But the motivation behind Rabbi Yosef's psak halacha and their motivation come from two very different places. Interpretation.
Thank you to their own tzrachim, their own need. That's not fair. Yeah.
And I think that it's. So are they doing something wrong? No, I can't tell you that they're breaking a halakha. A woman is allowed to read the Megillah from men. It's an interesting question. We know that in Israel there was a whole tumult about whether, about the soldiers were in the army and a lady was singing and they all got up and left. I don't know if those of you who watch Israeli news.
Yes.
Halakha is that men they generally don't hear ladies sing. That's the halakha in the Talmud. What?
It's only very religious men that would walk out.
It's a law in the Shulchan Aruch. It's not a fanatic fringe opinion. There are obviously limits and limitations to this law, but the question Chacham Ovadia asks is she allowed to actually read the Megillah with a tune, or is that considered singing for the men? I mean, can she, when this says she can read it, does it mean she just has to read it like Vahi b'mei Achashverosh? Or can say b'mei Achashverosh Achashverosh? Can she sing it or not? He says this is not called singing, and she's allowed to read it with a tune in front of the community. Now, he has a few. One is that this is not really a song; it's a chant, it's a tune. Which is not even that. There are opinions who say that when a lady sings holy things, it's okay to listen to that, and so it combines a few opinions together and allows such a thing. I didn't come to tell you though the laws of reading the Megillah. I came to tell you that here is a very classic case where something is allowed, but the motivation behind it makes me uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but it makes me uncomfortable. And so when someone says, so what do you think about this phenomenon of women reading the Megillah? My answer is, I can't tell you that it's prohibited. It's not allowed. I mean, unless you're Ashkenazi, in which case there's a different question. But I'm dealing with my worldview, my understanding. And my understanding, by the way, is that Ashkenazim or Sfaradim don't have to be bound to one opinion just because of their ethnicity. I spoke about this in Shabbat. So what if your grandparents were from Poland? If there's an opinion that's Sephardic that you connect to, that should be other way around also. So what if you're from Yemen? You can also, if there's an opinion that's something else and it's halachically valid, you don't have to. Okay, I don't want to upset anybody, but you understand what I'm saying.
So you can go back and.
Not every Joe Schmo. The rule in life is you have to have a rabbi. You have to have a rabbi or a teacher, someone who guides you on the path. Somebody once came to Rabbi Yitzchak Ababi. He's a posek in Lakewood. He said, Rabbi, I don't know what to do. This one or this one. I don't know which halakha to follow. This opinion or that opinion. So Rabbi Ababi says, well, what does your rabbi do? So I don't have a rabbi. He says, well, then what you should do is go to the synagogue, say vidui, beat your chest for not having a rabbi, for the sin of not having a rabbi. And then once you find your rabbi, you can ask him the question. Don't ask me. And very often people ask me questions, and I know they're only asking me because they're fishing for my answer. And I tell them, I'm not your rabbi. You should call up your local Orthodox rabbi. It's just not in my jurisdiction. Somebody who has a rabbi, he has the knowledge to say, sometimes I choose this, sometimes I choose that. And if your rabbi only chooses things based on ethnicity, meaning the only reason he makes a decision is because my grandparents were from Poland and I have to do it, or my grandparents were from Morocco and that's why I do it, I find that logic to be flawed. Does everyone agree with me? Of course not everyone agrees with me. But I believe that Torah is truthful. It's not ethnic, it's the truth. And so the truth can come from many different countries, regardless of where you come from. But I'm getting sidetracked. When it comes to this halakha, so can a lady be a rabbi? I'm presenting to you for the last few weeks a number of different scenarios in which I'll tell you that most of the jobs of a rabbi, not all, most of the jobs of a rabbi, minus the part of running a synagogue service are pretty much unisex. A man and woman not just can do them, but they do them actively. They're involved in such things. And especially in a community where people have no objection to being guided or led or taught by a lady, such a thing could be allowed halachically. That's not where the ball stops, though. See, those rabbis that we read last week, their opinion was that we have to ban all female-led roles in leadership positions in the Jewish community. They also came from a political standpoint. They didn't provide a halachic reasoning for what they said. They didn't provide a legal basis for what they're standing on in Judaism. They're upset at women being in leadership roles. And so they put out a statement saying, no, we don't let any women rabbis or clergy or leaders. I am humbly telling you that I think both of them are wrong. And that in every situation you have to ask yourself the following question. What is the motivation behind this movement? What is the motivation behind this cause? Why did she choose to go down that road? And so someone would say, well, why are you being so harsh on a lady? Maybe you should ask the rabbis and the men why did he do it? Because of the family business? Why did he do it? Because of money? The truth is, I believe you should be equally as harsh to men as you should be to women. I believe there are many rabbis that shouldn't be in the pulpit of rabbi, that should not be in the capacity of rabbi. And the community has the right to question, what brought you into this sphere? We don't want to hire any rabbi, we want to know, is this your passion? I was teaching in a yeshiva in Jerusalem. And in most yeshivas, the top-notch position is to be the teacher of Talmud. It's like the Gemara teacher. He's the brilliant guy in the yeshiva. You have to study Chumash or Parasha or Jewish law or Jewish philosophy. Those are like secondary or third positions from the top. And so generally when you're looking for teachers in the yeshiva, you'll find that the first-rate teachers are always going to be the Talmud teachers. And the ones who are teaching Chumash are always going to be like the second-class citizens. And so the yeshiva was looking for a Chumash teacher. And the Rosh Yeshiva said, I don't want to hire any Chumash teacher. I want to hire somebody who loves teaching Chumash. That if I would give him the job to be a Talmud teacher, he would say, no, I don't want it. I want to teach Chumash. And he would interview teachers. And he would say, we might have an opening for a Talmud position. I said, I'm interested. Said, I don't want you to be my Chumash teacher. He only wanted somebody who was dedicated to the cause. So I said, you're being too harsh on people. I'll tell you, he finally found a Chumash teacher. And this man, he lives, he breathes, he dreams Chumash. And it was a good move. Because when you're that passionate, your students are just as passionate. When you love what it is that you're doing, and you're not just doing it because that's the job that pays the bills, it sets other people on fire. You become a torch that lights other candles. And the same thing with the world of clergy. I can't tell you what it feels like when you meet clergy members, rabbis, that are really competent people. They do this with a whole heart. They do this because this is what they love. You're sitting at a wedding table, you meet another rabbi from another community, you meet a teacher from a school, because they are in love with what they're doing. My wife and I were in New York this summer. We met these two teachers that were just fired from their job after 40 years of teaching in a place. One day they got an email. They kicked them to the curb. That's the world. The world is full of a lot of evil and such things. And you saw people that were broken not because they were fired. They didn't care about their job. What's going to be with their students? What's going to be with the kids that were supposed to be in their class or the ones that were in their class last year? They're no longer able to talk to them. And I saw people who were real educators. In their bones, they were educators. And then when a parent comes home and tells me, my teacher at school, my son's teacher, she said she hates her job, but she does it anyways. It makes me feel like, why do you have a job? Why are you doing this when there are people who love what they're doing that are so much more competent? Would you hire a lawyer if they told you they don't really care much about the legal system, they just do it to pay the bills? What if your surgeon told you, I wasn't really paying attention in medical school, I kind of just went through it, because you would let the guy do surgery on you? But when it comes to raising your children, when it comes to leading the community that you pay and you're a part of and you're a member in, you're okay for some substandard leader? I don't think so. And I think that we should be equally as harsh. But when a person comes into this world and they're trying to start a new movement, let's get female leaders in the Jewish community. My argument is threefold. One is we already have many female leaders in the Jewish community. Yes, we don't call them rabbis, But there are, and growing and growing and growing every day, many more ladies of authority, of competency, who are writing books, who are putting out. Do you think it's just books in English? I have entire halakhic magazines, manuals, books that are put out that are written by ladies. You have seminary girls today who are publishing articles and books and journals. It's an incredible world. You're in a different place. On top of that, I believe that there used to be a healthy role model in the Jewish community who was a rabbanit. And the decline of the rabbi's wife being a leader in her own right has led to a void in the Jewish community. Then instead of filling with some strange new title, why don't we fix the problem? Why don't we empower those people, those ladies who are rightfully leaders of the Jewish community, and put them in positions where they really can lead properly? And third, I question motivations. I saw two girls once go to the same seminary in Israel for the year. And they both went to that seminary because that seminary teaches Talmud. And not every seminary teaches girls Talmud. They both wanted to study Talmud. One of them went to study Talmud because she was in love with Judaism. This one just everything that she could study that was Jewish, she wanted to devour. And the other one went to seminary to study Talmud. You know why? Because the eighth grades that she was in her school, they told her girls can't study Talmud. And she just wanted to show them that she can study Talmud. And she went. And I'm here today, 6 years later. One of them is a devout follower of Hashem. She is a learner, a teacher. And the other one hasn't opened up a book since she was in seminary. Because the motivation didn't come from the same place. And so how can I judge someone's motivations? I can't. I don't know every person. Only Hashem can tell you what goes on inside of a person's heart. But I urge whoever's trying to start these new movements to not do it out of the wrong ideals. Don't do it to spite the Orthodox community. Don't do it to fight every rabbi in the world. Don't do it because there's some feminist ideal that's underlying. Do it because you found ladies that are really good at leading. The ladies that are the Jewish world cannot survive without them, and you're making it your mission to bring these people into the sphere. If you do it because of that, there's no reason in the world why the Jewish community wouldn't accept them. There's no reason in the world why they can't be part of the Jewish community leadership. And so what about the title rabbi? Rabbi is not even a Jewish word. Do you know that? Rabbi is not a Jewish word. Yeah, in this country, up until not so long ago, 50 years ago about, rabbis were all called reverend.
Yes.
A rabbi is what American Jewish community said, hey, we have what's called a rebbe, we have what's called a rav, we have what's called a rabbi, so we're going to make it rabbi. Rabbi, anybody could have the title rabbi. Rabbi there's no Jewish connotation to the title rabbi. The title rav, the title rebbe, the title, sure, those titles have, now it's the semantics, but just so you know, the title of Ribi or Avrav is a masculine title. In Hebrew, calling a woman a rav would be like calling a female teacher a moreh. It's just not, it's not grammatically correct. No, not kosher. It doesn't make sense.
No, it'd be like saying he instead of she.
Right.
So if you wanted to make the argument that a rabbanit is a title that shouldn't just be given to people that are rabbis' wives, fine, I could agree with that discussion. But for a whole movement to decide we're going to call ladies rabbi, it just smells of ignorance in the beginning, and I question its motivation. And my last point of the day is about change. Change happens very slowly, especially in movements that are as conservative as Judaism. They're terrified of change. And even those reform and conservative groups that pretend that change is something they do overnight, even they are terrified of change.
Also, human beings are terrified.
In general, human beings are terrified of change. There was once a story about a rabbi. There was somebody in his community that was Jewish and becoming more observant. He went to the rabbi's class on Wednesday, fell in love with Judaism. Wow, this is incredible. Came back on Friday, already he was wearing a kippah, and he was wearing tzitziot, and he was growing out his beard, and then he decided he was... And on Shabbat morning, I wouldn't do this if I was the rabbi, but this is what the rabbi felt. In the middle of services, the rabbi told the guy, hey, go turn on the light. I said, what? I'm a religious Jew now. He said, go turn on the light. And until the man agreed to turn on the light, he wouldn't let the services continue. Now you're all giving me this look, like what is wrong with you? And he said, any change that happens overnight will go away overnight. So you don't jump into things. He said, you have to think about this religion hard before you jump into it. You have to think about, is Shabbat really for me? Is kosher really for me? What's it going to do for my family? So of course, as an Orthodox rabbi, I should tell you, take all 613 on yourself overnight. But the fact of the matter is that even the most Orthodox Jews have things they struggle with. And change has to happen slowly. And if it doesn't happen slowly, you're going to default back to where you started in a minute, in a heartbeat. It's not healthy. Healthy change doesn't happen quickly. And I would argue the same thing. If you look at the books that we were reading from 2,000 years ago, what certain rabbis thought about women, and that was, it's better that we should burn the Torah than give it to women. Do you remember that statement? That was 2,000 years ago. We read that from a book. And then already a little bit later you find, wow, there's wise women who are writing. And then you find generations of ladies that are opening up their own schools. In the 1800s, you find already 1900s, you find today schools of ladies that are really studying Torah, that are learning, that are writing, that are teaching, that are leading. You find that I told you in the most extreme Hasidic communities, entire seminaries, schools, academies, colleges that are headed by ladies, for ladies. My wife went to a school that there was not one rabbi on staff. They didn't teach halakha, it was always a woman. They didn't teach chumash, it was always a woman. They didn't teach Jewish philosophy, it was always... They don't need rabbis. The world is changing. We're already in a different place. And a change will happen naturally. And the moment we try to turn the world upside down in a day, is the moment that it goes back just as quickly. And this is what happened. These groups have decided, we're going to just not wait for the natural evolution. We're going to put out our first 3 clergy, female rabbis. And look what happened. Remember those letters we read last week? In the same week, the ultra-Orthodox right wing and the modern Orthodox right wing, their whole life they never spoke to each other. These guys won't even pray in the same synagogue with each other. All of a sudden they issued a letter in the same week condemning the other movement. In my opinion, it didn't happen the right way. It didn't start off on the right foot. It didn't start off with wisdom. It started off with urgency and spontaneity, and that's not.
Actually,
that wasn't.
I don't think that. I think it started off in this country because women feel they have the right, and they were the ones who put it forward and started it. I don't think it was actually anybody else. I think it was the American women that did it.
It could be.
Because I've never heard of a woman rabbi anywhere else in the world.
So is it because they're not allowed to be, or because they don't want to be?
I don't know if they're not allowed. I don't think they are allowed. Want to be? I'm sure there are many women who would love to be a rabbi. But the time and evolution hasn't come along for them to be able to do it. That's my opinion.
And what I'm arguing is
they don't listen to anything, and they just push everything forward and do what they like. They don't think before they do it.
What
they
do you
do
say?
it
Where is here?
here in the States.
Okay.
Here in the States. These people don't think of the consequences of what they're doing. They don't give a damn about the consequences. They just want to do it, and they want to prove that this is what I can do, and here I am. Now what you going to do about it? Well, I don't think that's the right way to go about anything. It doesn't matter what you're doing in this life.
Let me share with you a story. It's on Avril's note. By the way, nobody has to agree with me. I'm sure we're sharing my opinion at the end. I'm wrapping up in my opinion. I was in Baltimore in a restaurant. And the halakha is, according to Sephardic law, that the person cooking the food has to be Jewish. Or at least the one who puts the food on the fire. Not just enough the person turns on the flame. See, for me, if a Jew were to turn on a flame and it wasn't cooked by a Jew, I wouldn't eat the food. And so restaurants that say, oh, we're mahadran kosher, and the Jews don't cook the food, are just lying to people. There's nothing mahadran about such an extra. It's good for like 30%, 40% of the Jewish people, because half the Ashkenazim also don't agree with this law. It's not a Sephardic Ashkenazi divide. So I was in the restaurant, and my normal thing is, hey, can I please talk to the rabbi, the mashgiach in the kitchen? Just for a moment, I want to ask them something. I don't want to offend a waiter or a waitress. It's not a racist thing. And so the mashgiach comes out, and it's a mashgicha. It's a lady. Very competent in Jewish law, very competent in these halachot, exactly what I was talking about, and took care of the situation. And I did my research, since when this is I'm talking about a long time ago, before any kind of kosher things that I was aware of, or before I was studying. I came across a letter, believed by Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, about whether or not a lady can be a kashrut supervisor. And his opinion was yes, of course she can. Just like you rely on a woman who's cooking in the kitchen to say the food is kosher, what difference does it make if she's in her kitchen or she's in a restaurant or so on? This is not a clergy, this is not a reading the Torah. The question is she competent in Jewish law of kosher? And can you rely on her? Is she a reliable, trustworthy person? If both things are true, obviously you would rely on her kosher certification. And in this country, it's become a very normal thing. But in Baltimore, even more, I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I heard that the rabbi who does the HaShamayim of Baltimore, he's realized that many widows in the Jewish community don't have jobs. They don't have the flexibility of working hours that they going to be a secretary in somebody's office for a minimum wage. And he decided to make it his issue that most of the jobs of hashgacha are given to ladies who need a job. And this has become a very standard thing in America. I mean, in San Diego, we have you're our expert in kashrut and halakha, and every time I would go to Ralph's and say something, it's under her hashgacha, and I trust you. Yeah, and there's no reason not to be. Now, what I thought was normal and made sense and logical, about a year ago, I'm reading the news from Israel, and this group of ladies in Israel said, well, we also want to do kashrut supervision. That's where it came from, like what you're mentioning. It didn't come from, well, we need a job, we want to pay the bills. It came from, we also want to do it. It's not just a man's territory. And the chief rabbinate spent a year going back and forth, should we let, should we not let, and their decision was, there's no room for female kashrut supervisors in this country. And the policy in Israel, to the best of my knowledge, at least from the chief rabbinate, is ladies are not allowed to serve as kashrut supervisors.
Because they went about it the wrong way.
So,
Totally the wrong way.
I think it's changing because Rabbi Mark gave me an article not so long ago that there's in Israel you have to take a test. To be a
right.
I did not have to be tested, but when I go to Israel, I will have to go through some kind of test.
So let me tell you, the test that the mashgichim take in Israel is tougher than the test that most rabbis take outside of Israel.
Wow.
And it's if you do it like you spend all day long studying, it's like a 6-month course, like all day long though. It's like a yeshiva. It's not to scare you. It's a very good. I wish that everyone who dealt with kashrut had studied as much as the people in Israel. And I'm not going to lie to you, the mashgichim in Israel all have their cousins that help. It's all a mafia, like everywhere else in the world. I'm not talking about what actually it looks like on the street, just the level of education that has to go into it before it happens.
But I think, I think an important point, like Avril, you added, is, and this has been, and we discussed this a little last week, this has always been a struggle in the feminist movement itself, where...
I'm sorry, here we don't let you have anything.
Yeah, right. Where the question has always been, is the movement to make women more competent and more accepted in the field as women, or is it in essence turning women into men? And I once read a great quote. It said, and you're gonna have to excuse it. It said, if men would menstruate, women would want to too, right? And it was interesting because it was, is our movement a movement where we're saying, hey, we as women are the better half of society, and we have a lot to offer, the better half of society, and we have a lot to offer in our own capacity. Or are we, in essence, being the ultimate masochist and saying, no, we want to be like you guys because ultimately being the guy is the best thing? And I think it translates not just in the feminist movement, but also in the Jewish movement. Do we want to be the best women we can be in our capacity? Or to us, being the best woman means, can I be the best man? And that's really insulting to women. That's really insulting. I don't want to be a man, because if I do, then in essence, all I'm saying is, ultimately, the goal is that we'll be men.
Exactly.
And so to wrap up this conversation is, I don't know where Jewish history is going to take us in the next few years. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know. All I know is, when it comes to a place of, I want to connect to Hashem, I want to help the Jewish people, I want to be there, you already find that that's successful in the Jewish community. When it comes from a different place, it comes from, well, Rabbi Yosef said my daughter can read the Megillah, and now we're going to do her bar mitzvah and Purim. That already, I can't, is it prohibited? I can't use that word. It's not prohibited, but we're guiding the generation down a path that's not correct. It's not right. It's not the way it should be. There's so much beauty in a feminine side of Judaism, in a Torah that is, today, you take halakha, the works of Torah they've been brought to a certain place of refinement, because we now know that when we write books of halakha, it's not just for rabbis, it's also for lay people, it's also for the principals and teachers, and for ladies that are running schools and that are teaching in the shuls, and we've already allowed for the Torah to be refined to such a high place. It would be chaval to throw a wrench into the machine right now and just turn so many people off. It's my opinion. You don't have to accept my opinion. I'm interested in hearing yours. B'ezrat Hashem, if you want to come up with a new topic for next week, I will welcome any emails or text messages this week.
I'm really upset it's gone.
So, B'ezrat Hashem.
I'm not tired because these women are amazing, but I don't think that we...
נעשה משהו יותר קרוב לפורים, נעשה על פורים.
I never want to be like that.
And I struggle with this. I remember we had 2 years ago in one of my classes. We had a class on gender equality. And the professor was saying, in essence, gender doesn't exist, we're all the same. Yom Tov, Dali. So I said to her, there was this guy Michael in my class, he was really like 6'5".
Just an advertisement. My book is going to print this week. We're reprinting our Yehi Shalom. We're out of print. It's going to print this week. B'ezrat Hashem. Don't worry, I'm waiting on you. Okay. There are 6. We start off with 10 spots for dedications. There are 6 more spots for dedications. If anybody wants, I'm not pressuring. I ask a lot from you guys already, but I'm just letting all my classes know. People have asked me. If you want a page in the book that's a partial sponsor of the printing, it's only used to cover the cost of printing. It's not
how
for
much is the
everything.
page?
It's $180 for the page, and it covers a tenth of the book. So 6 more, and we're ready to send it to the publisher this week. So thank you, Marlene.
Anyways, when I turned to my professor, I said, between Michael and myself, who do you think can move this desk better? And everyone laughed, because obviously he can. I said, so are you being biased? The answer is, yeah, can it be maybe I'm stronger than Michael? Of course it can be. But I said, if you look at our physical anatomy, it's different. And instead of saying, hey, we're different and we can still be equal, we're pushing an agenda of, let's all be the same. Let's not be different. Let's all look the same, act the same, do the same. And in essence, I think it's insulting to women and it's demeaning. Why shouldn't we be allowed to be as different as we can be and as good as we are in other capacities? We are brilliant in so many ways that men could never live without us. So why do we need to fill their role? Let them do it and let us do ours.
I've never understood the feminist
and you do have a crossover. You have some women who
I
are more
understand.
manly, and you have some women who are more...
I understand the
that's
feminist
okay.
movement. In a world that really was, the world until the feminist movement was not male chauvinistic in a subtle, quiet way. It was like overtly, women are inferior to men, women can't work as well as men, women can't think as well as men. Of course that led birth to a movement of, yes we can, we are intelligent. What happened was when it translated, like my wife was saying, into we can be men instead of we can be women that are just as competent. And that's a very big difference. And that, I think, is what she's trying to say. I understand why the movement was born. I just believe that it reached places that even it didn't intend to go to.
Bad way.
Thank you.